A wide range of gasoline and turbo-diesel power units was designed for the A4, and both types are represented in almost equal proportions. As operating experience has shown, a number of problems have been identified in each of the gasoline engines. General failure of individual ignition coils is possible, although this problem occurs much less frequently than on its predecessor. The weak point of all gasoline engines of the TFSI family is the timing belt. Premature stretching of the chain and breakdown of its hydraulic tensioner are noted. This can happen with runs from 70 to 100,000 kilometers and threatens the chain slipping and a fatal meeting of valves with pistons. Therefore, during the specified mileage, in order to avoid troubles, it is necessary to monitor the condition of the specified parts. In the 1.8-liter engine, leaks of high-pressure pumps also occur. Replacement is required. 2.0-liter gasoline engines have an increased oil appetite. If it is more than 0.5 liters per 1,000 kilometers, the service station first suggests replacing the crankcase ventilation system. If this does not help, the engine needs to be repaired and the piston group replaced. The most reliable of the diesel engines is the most popular 2.0-liter. In 3.0-liter engines, failure of the intake manifold flaps, most often noticed by the check engine warning light, and the throttle valve block, the engine loses traction, interruptions in operation, and increased smoke, is noted. Forthcoming front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Compared to its predecessor, the setting of the proprietary Quattro all-wheel drive has changed. In this generation of A4, priority is given to the rear wheels, in standard modes 40 to 60, while in the predecessor the torque distribution was equal, 50 to 50. All-wheel drive versions have better stability and cross-country ability than their single-wheel drive brothers. No characteristic weaknesses were identified in the Quattro transmission. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what brakes and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro. The range of gearboxes designed for the A4 is also very diverse. There is a 6-speed manual, the least common, a multitronic variator, for low-power front-wheel drive versions, a robotic manual transmission S-tronic, analogous to the Volkswagen DSG, and a classic automatic transmission Tiptronic. The most unreliable was the robot with 2 clutches, the weak point of the mechatronic control unit, manifested by jerking while moving. Sometimes the problem can be solved by reprogramming the brains, but often the problem unit has to be changed. In a manual gearbox coupled with diesel engines, the dual-mass flywheel may fail, clicking and knocking noises when starting to move and idling. But the most problem-free were Multitronic. It is of a new generation, and the weak point inherent in its predecessor has been eliminated, and Tiptronic. Structurally, the car's suspension is similar to its predecessor, multi-link front and rear with anti-roll bars. To reduce unsprung weight, the front suspension arms, 4 on each side, and the rear lower wishbones are made of aluminum alloy. The chassis is characterized by moderate rigidity and energy consumption. As an option, the A4 was equipped with the proprietary Audi Drive Select system, which allows you to change the character of the car, the settings of shock absorbers adjustable for hardness, responsiveness of the power steering and accelerator pedal vary. Versions before restyling had 3 operating modes, Comfort, Auto and Dynamic, and after 2011 a 4th one was added, Efficient. Modes are changed using buttons near the gear lever. Adjustable shock absorbers turned out to be no less reliable than conventional ones. The suspension is also quite durable. Most of the original consumables of the front and rear suspensions are capable of operating up to 100,000 kilometers. A little less, about 80,000 kilometers, are the hydraulic silent blocks of the rear lower arms of the front suspension, and about 60,000 kilometers are the stabilizer struts. At the same time, repairing the chassis is expensive. The front control arms are supplied with ball joints, and the rear suspension comes with lower control arms along with rubber bands. Difficulties also arise with replacement over time. The steel bolts and the aluminum steering knuckles securing the upper arms and camber rods of the rear suspension become sour. They have to be heated, drilled, and sometimes even cut with a grinder. The rack and pinion steering, equipped with electric power steering, has proven to be reliable. Steering ends can withstand at least 100,000 kilometers, and traction rods about 150,000 kilometers. The A4 also has an electrified parking brake. It is activated by a button near the gear lever, and the brake mechanisms block the pads using electric motors installed on each rear caliper. Unlike the Audi A6 and the 4F body and the VW Passat B6, the Quartet has no problems with the electric handbrake. The only note about the brakes is that over time, the rear caliper brackets break and knock on uneven surfaces.